Hi, welcome back. If you watched my first videos on mirroring part 1 and 2, you now understand something most people never notice. Every conversation you have changes you. Every smile, every handshake, every laugh. You are leaving an imprint on them, and they are leaving an imprint on you. You're constantly shaping one another through the 5 types of mirroring. And to remind you, they are oral matching, physical matching, entwined proximal emotion, neurological mirroring, and postural chemical inducement. Now that you understand how mirroring works, you have a choice. You can use this knowledge to connect with people, or you can use it to manipulate them. Today, we're going to explore both. Firstly, let me be frank. Mirroring is a responsibility. The knowledge itself is neutral. For example, you can use fire to cook your food, or you can use fire to burn down your house. Mirroring is no different. What mirroring teaches us is that we need to be authentic with a sense of presence. Listening to the other person, not trying to mirror them, but simply being authentically you. Yes, you can accelerate an agenda by acting like them or pretending to be them to trigger mirroring. However, the purpose of mirroring isn't to become someone else. It is to become so genuinely you and interested in another person that mirroring happens naturally. That's authenticity. That's true connection. Because of the third person concept that gets created by being with someone, you have no idea really who they are. They've become a version of themselves that only exists in your presence. Part of them is still them, but part has adapted to you through mirroring. To assume, therefore, to know them, give them advice, or manipulate them is doomed to lead to disaster. You must be authentic and interested. This leads to inspiring the other person. It works like this. When you feel comfortable in your presence due to your authenticity and natural mirroring starts to happen organically, then they will feel more at ease. This allows their stress to dissolve or lessen. When we have less stress, we can think more clearly. This allows people to come to their own conclusions about their path, what they need to do as a result of the conversation with you. Notice something remarkable? You never solved their problem. You simply created an environment where they could solve it themselves. That isn't influence, that's empowerment. This conclusion they make is from their own perspective based on the full story only they know. Unlike an idea you might come up with to give them advice or insert yourself into their life through analyzing from this third person you both created by mirroring. As mentioned in video 2, never assume. Get familiar with asking, "Tell me more." There is also a dark side to mirroring. Mirroring for manipulation. We may already be familiar with pushy sales tactics, but this is much more subtle. And now that you know about mirroring, you will know what to look for. Once you understand that trust is biological, you begin to understand why so many industries try to manufacture it. It is present in sales, politics, dating, negotiation, cults, advertising, and of course, algorithms. This is not a conspiracy at play, folks. It is business in motion. It stands to reason that to get ahead, looking at the bottom line in any business, people will use the latest tools available to them to succeed. Or as some people put it, to get you out of your own way. If someone deliberately used oral matching, posture matching, emotional matching, etc., your nervous system will naturally say to itself, "This person is like me." At that very moment, you trust this person. The problem is, this happens before they truly deserve trust. Just as I know the simple principles of mirroring, so too do those wishing to manipulate. They know language changes emotion, and emotion changes decisions. Combine that simple fact with body language, mirror neurons, oral matching, emotional proximity, and you are already making decisions from a place of unconscious trust. Let me give you an example by way of a personal story. My brother came to visit my newborn son, who was about 5 months at the time. My son had the car keys in his hand and was shaking them like a rattle. Any time my brother or I tried to get the keys from my son, he held them even tighter and was laughing hysterically, knowing that he had the keys that we wanted. But we wanted to leave. So my brother reached for a bottle of aspirin and shook it in the opposite direction to the hand that held the keys. My son reached for the noisy shaker, of course, and released the keys. This is an example of higher intelligence manipulating lower intelligence. My son was no worse off in his mind, but he did surrender the keys without a fight and was blissfully unaware of what had just happened. The frightening part wasn't that my son was manipulated. The frightening part was he thought it was his idea. AI is already in on the act. It doesn't take long for an AI to see your patterns and then mirror it through your speech, your humor, your political beliefs, your fears, your buying habits, and even your loneliness. This information can be used in advertising to know when to make you notice something, and then to place advertising in front of you at exactly the right time, presented in just the right way for you to act on that advertising. The question becomes, at what point does this synthetic empathy become indistinguishable from genuine empathy? Cambridge Analytica is perhaps the most infamous case where this company used 70 million Facebook users' data to look for patterns to manipulate us. They demonstrated how behavioral data could be used to target and influence voters on a massive scale. To swing votes in elections, to instigate people not into voting but instead to vote in another direction. Human behavior can be predicted, influenced, and then engineered. So what, you ask, is the best way to protect yourself? The question asked, how do I remain myself and avoid having mirroring change who I am? The answer is so simple, it's beyond question. Simply be authentic. I speak of authenticity in my writings in my book, A Life by Design. Most of life is corrected by being authentic. And this safety feature in manipulation is no exception. Know yourself. The greatest defense against manipulation isn't intelligence, it's authenticity. If you know who you are, what you stand for, and what you value, then someone else's performance has far less influence over you. Manipulation needs uncertainty to survive. Defense number 2, stop chasing approval. The flattery and empathy such manipulation create can be reduced considerably if you're not chasing approval and simply being whole and complete within yourself. No external approval is required. Defense number 3, familiarity isn't trust. Don't confuse familiarity with trust. One of the most used forms of manipulation is done by establishing rapport quickly using mirroring, which leads to familiarity. which then triggers trust. Familiarity is not trust, it just feels like it. Defense number 4. Be aware of perfect alignment. If someone seems too perfect, knowing the rarity of such a thing, stop and ask, could they have been using mirroring to simply match me and therefore convey perfect alignment? Chances are yes. Defense number 5. Chemistry isn't character. Mirroring can create chemistry remarkably quickly. That's why chemistry should never be mistaken for compatibility. Chemistry can be created in minutes. Character is only revealed over time. Trust isn't created through chemistry. Trust is earned through consistency. People need to earn trust over time. That doesn't happen in 5 minutes. If it feels that way in less than 5 minutes, chances are you have been manipulated. After everything we've explored together about mirror neurons, chemistry, empathy, manipulation, and AI, there is one lesson that matters the most. Never assume. Always ask with genuine, sincere curiosity. Tell me more. Curiosity defeats manipulation. The presence defeats fear. And authenticity defeats performance. When I started to research and write about mirroring, I started out thinking it was an extension of my writing about neuroscience. Instead, when all is said and done, this whole discussion is about responsibility. Every person you meet leaves a fingerprint on your life. The question then is, what kind of fingerprint are you leaving on theirs? That means every conversation is an opportunity not to control another person, but to help them feel seen, heard, and appreciated, and perhaps just a little less alone. Learn these techniques. Recognize them for yourself. Protect yourself from those who abuse them. Never lose your authenticity trying to master them, because in the end, the most powerful mirror anyone can ever become is simply an honest reflection of who they truly are. Thank you for listening.